Is this the ultimate BTC Wyckoff distribution before the death of Bitcoin as we know it, or the final shakeout phase before Plan B's stock to flow model of $95,000 Bitcoin in November 2021 or $135,000 Bitcoin for December 2021? If it's going to happen, it needs to happen soon. But I'm going to go through and share my thoughts on where I think we are in this Wyckoff phase right now. What is up, guys? Tex here with you. Yes, that was a little bit of a mouthful as to what we're going to share in this video today. And I welcome you from sunny Melbourne on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Yes, it is Sunday. No rest for us here at UTG. And I've been seeing a couple of videos circulating around about Wyckoff distribution events, Wyckoff re-accumulation events. I'm going to share where I think we are in this schematic at the moment, because we have shared some information in the past. Back in early January 2020, I shared some videos on Wyckoff distribution and then my Wyckoff accumulation phases. If you want to know more about that, go to our YouTube channel and type in Unity Trading Group and search for the videos there, because the power of Wyckoff cannot be understated. We know that these markets, and any assets, work in cycles and work on emotion, and they're controlled by a single entity. Well, that's how we need to be trading this, with this mindset that a single entity, the composite man theory, that the major players control this market, and that's based on a lot of that, so the whales. And then we also had Plan B talking about his 98K November and 135K December predictions still in play. Yesterday or the day before, he came out, he said, let me just clarify here, 98K is not based on my stock to flow model, but on my floor model. So he's changing his wording a little bit here as well. So he said, as I said before, and in tweets and latest podcasts, he uses three models. He uses stock to flow, he uses floor models, and excuse me, he uses floor models, and he talks about his on-chain model schematic as to how he predicts the price of BTC. Now, I got asked the other week, do I believe in the stock to flow model? Yeah, absolutely I do. I think it's a very powerful element of predicting BTC price in the future, and it has proven itself accurate in many times before. But I think too many people put an emphasis on this being the model for exactly where we will be in November, December, January, 2022, 2023. So I think it's great to use this as a part of your arsenal, but don't put all your eggs in the stock to flow basket. Now, that sort of 98K November prediction, I think, contrasts a little bit against Wyckoff. So where are we at the moment? Are we in a Wyckoff distribution schematic, or are we in a little bit more of an intermediate reaccumulation phase where we see these multiple shakeouts, or these spring or these shakeout levels before the ultimate move back up towards the top of the range and higher towards potentially that 95K or that 135K Plan B stock to flow model? Now, where do I think we are? I think if you were to eyeball this as a Wyckoff enthusiast or whatever and look at what I have on my charts here, you would maybe attribute this a little bit more towards a distribution schematic. For myself, based on fundamentals of where we stand in the market with Bitcoin, the retail interest, the institutional interests, the ETFs, all the stuff that is coming out, the taproot activation on Bitcoin, which is a massive fundamental element of BTC circulating at the moment. I believe that we are more likely in a re-accumulation phase than what we are in a distribution schematic. Now, there are arguments either side of this. I think if you were looking at this from a distribution mindset, it aligns really well. You have a lot of retail interest, you trap the late longs, you smash it down, you sell into liquidity because there's a lot of people still buying or having levels at these, or having buys at these levels, as we saw, where we, excuse me, I just need to put this back on the chart. So these are the levels that I would be, or that we were looking at. So this demand zone was front run. I did believe that we were going to get a touch on this sort of 55K level before we had an immediate reaction. And as I said to the guys inside the Discord when I was talking about this, I've been talking about this for the last few days now, giving you a breakdown of where I believe we are in this particular cycle, I said undoubtedly at this level there are going to be some buys. So we're going to see some sort of reaction where there's a lot of liquidity and buy set at this level. However, we need to see a lot of volume coming into this market to give us a confirmation that this is a level where we are looking to aggressively long and long back up into the top of the range, because that was the bottom of this move. I don't believe that's the case, because as I said, undoubtedly when we get, let's say, predicted bottom moves on BTC, we see reversions to the lows or very close to the lows almost every single time. We will see a double bottom or a triple bottom event before we make up our minds as to whether we continue upwards towards the top of the range, or in fact there isn't enough buying pressure and we continue down to the lows and these other demand levels that we have set here. So we've got these are not the highest quality demands. This is probably the better of the quality of demands, but certainly we have a couple here, which is a pause in the market, and then a little bit more of a, let's say, like a, again, a consolidation before we headed up. So nothing in terms of where we really sit is a super high quality zone here. But what's going to be really important for this week in general, for this close tomorrow, is whether we can close back above this, let's say this immediate area here at around 60K. 60K is going to be one, it's a pretty heavy psychological level. We know that round numbers psychologically hold a lot of relevance to traders. 50, 30, 40, 60, 80, 70 hold a lot of relevance psychologically to traders. So I think if we can close above confidently 60 and ultimately above 63K, would be a really great sign for BTC that we are in a reaccumulation phase where we have found a spring shakeout level, and now we're going to see a sign of strength, and these lower points of supply where we would come up and retest the highs. We would maybe have like a little bit of a blow off top perhaps, or like a quick move through this level. That would then become the high where we would close back down just above the high, or we would retest the previous highs before the moves back up. If we're in a distribution schematic, we are seeing these again, this level here, as a sign of weakness, because we're not seeing the buying pressure that we need to push this back up towards the range highs. So from that, we would look to see something like this, where we would maybe consolidate a couple of times before, making our way back up. Or in fact, we see this as a sign of weakness and we head back down towards this 48K zone, where from there we would look to potentially see that as a reaccumulation range or another accumulation range, after this being what's called the markdown. There's always a cause and effect in Wyckoff. We have a cause being the accumulation, and we have an effect being the markup phase. And then we have, again, a cause being the distribution phase before the markdown phase being the next level of sells back towards an established reaccumulation range where people are feeling confident enough to buy. The retailers or the market has capitulated. They've sold all their Bitcoin off to the whales, who are sucking it up like mad, and then the price is pushed back higher, because as Wyckoff and Jesse Livermore and a lot of these people who really popularized a lot of theories in trading many years ago, they spoke about this composite man theory. And the theory behind that is that a single entity, and how you should trade mentally, is that a single entity is controlling this market. And in this case for Bitcoin, it's the whales. You need to think like a whale. And what would they be doing? They'd be selling into this buying strength at this level and continue selling into this buying strength at this level after reaccumulating or accumulating back down at the lows. They are still buying at this level, and then they are taking profits at the highs and selling into the dumb money, the FOMO money, the people who want to be buying at this level, thinking that we're headed to the moon towards 95K or 135K in December. There are so many people that would be following that methodology that are playing right into the whale's hands. So for this week and for this weekly close, it's really important that we see some sign of strength here so we can continue back up towards the range highs. If we don't, then ultimately these levels for us, or for me at least, are going to be the most relevant, where again you might want to start employing a dollar cost averaging strategy. Back up around here at around the 60K level, Ads and I said, now is probably the time where you may want to look to consider employing some DCA strategies as you look to accumulate Bitcoin as we continue lower. Now again, we didn't quite make this demand zone. Things get front run quite often, just like everyone was looking for 70K and that area got front run. Everyone was looking for 54K, that area got front run. However, if you started looking at buys at these particular levels, let's say you know, you might, and this is not a strategy by any means that I'm telling you how to set your buys, but this is the strategy, like the overall premise of dollar cost averaging. So, you know, you might look to play some small bids at each relevant level as we continue down, because ultimately that will bring down with it your average buy price, and you're accumulating as BTC is getting cheaper before ultimately it consolidates within a period and then heads back up towards the highs if you believe that that's what's going to happen. So, you know, let's just recap that again. Here we are at the moment, a distribution phase. We had our up thrust. We've seen some signs of weakness. We had our last points of supply before we headed back down, where we can continue seeing our last points of supply. Ultimately, before we head back down towards this level being our major level sign, or our major level sign of weakness, if we cannot hold this area, and we continue back down towards the 52s, the 47s, and ultimately back down towards the low 40k levels on BTC. That would not be good for BTC, but certainly would be good for the people who are wishing to accumulate cheaper BTC. If we are in a reaccumulation phase, which I am more akin to think that we are, we will see multiple shakeout events around this 55k to 54k level before we ultimately look to retest the range highs. And then from there, we want to continue to see some nice pivots in this market. You know, it will not be a straight line directly up towards that 70k zone. It will not be like that. You will see some chop in this area, but we need to continue making higher lows and higher highs for that to occur. We need to see some sign of strength in this market at the moment. So as we said, you know, you can look to tether and chill and wait for this market to give you a sign as to whether we continue back higher, or ultimately you can sit sidelined or start dollar cost averaging into a position now and look to take advantage of the cheaper BTC buy prices. I hope that helped. I hope that gives you some clarification. This week will be very important for BTC, so make sure that you're paying attention. Nothing that we share here is financial advice, but certainly from my side, I'm looking for this to be a reaccumulation event. So let's see what happens. I'm happy to be proven wrong, but ultimately at the end of the day, as long as we're making money, that is all that matters. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm Tex, UnityTradingGroup.com. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.